Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome on behalf of 3P Consultants to the sixth in series of webinar to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the firm. A quick introduction about 3P Consultants. The firm was established by my father and myself in 1990. Today, we are a preferred choice for companies who are seeking to identify and hire leadership talent. Our services include executive search for leadership talent, independent director search, and finding interim managers. Amongst our clients are family-owned companies whom we advise on critical succession planning issues for key leadership roles. Through our international partnership through Spengler Fox, we are able to provide global access to our Indian clients who are seeking talent across Asia, Europe, and Americas. Our past speakers included Vikram Bector, CHR of Piramal Group, Ms. Meher Padamji, Chairperson of Thermax, Mahesh Palishikar, Country Manager and President of GE in India, Shishir Joshipura, MD and CEO of Praj Industries, Dr. Santrup Misra, CEO of the carbon black business of Aditya Birla Group, and as recent as 2 weeks back, Mr. Jai Shroff, Global CEO of United Phosphorus Limited, UPL. Our topic of discussion for the day is leading transformation in family businesses. And this topic emerged out of the feedback which has come from our participants from the past webinars. Post every webinar, we try and send out a survey form to get their feedback. And one of the questions that we ask is there any specific subject you would want us to discuss? And this came up as a topic of choice. And so we have budgeted 60 minutes for today's discussion, followed by 15 minutes of question and answers. I would encourage all of you to post your questions in the Q&A box. Do keep them brief and relevant to the subject. You are free to do it all through the webinar, and at the end of it, I will pick up selectively those questions which I believe will benefit the larger audience. I'm delighted to welcome to you Mr. Rajendra Gogri and Renil Gogri, the father and son duo who have catapulted the growth of Aarti Industries and more recently embarked on a transformation journey. We as 3P consultants and search partners to Aarti have been involved for the last 5 to 6 years. And I must say that we take it as a pride to be your partners and look forward to continue in years to come. Many legacy organizations go through this transformation, and while there are theoretical experiences, but it's important to hear as to how companies and individuals went through that. A quick introduction on our guest for today. Mr. Rajendra Gogri has been with the company since its inception and was appointed Managing Director in 1993. He eventually became the chairman and MD in 2012. He holds a master's degree in chemical engineering from US and is a rank holder from UD City, Mumbai. He worked along with Sri Chandrakant Gogri, founder, chairman, Aarti Industries, to help the company achieve its present stature. Mr. Gogri has played an instrumental role in expanding the company's presence in international market. In addition to his technical qualification, he has expertise in handling financial and commercial matters as well. He had been awarded the prestigious Distinguished Alumni Award from UD City in 1995 for his excellent performance as an entrepreneur in the chemical industry. Hurun Report also presented Mr. Rajendra Gogri with the Hurun Industry Achievement Award in 2019 in the specialty chemical segment for the exceptional growth of Aarti Industries over the years. Sri Renil Gogri has been appointed as a whole-time director of the company from August 2012. He too holds a BTech in mechanical qualification from prestigious IIT Mumbai. He oversees the manufacturing operations, various people and excellence initiatives, adoption in IT, advancements, sustainability initiatives, and projects for the specialty chemical segment. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks, Nirmit. Thanks for the introduction.
My first question to you, Rajendra Bhai, I think it's more to set the context of today's discussion. If you could take us through a little about the journey of Aarti Industries over the last 4 decades. That would be good for the larger group, all of us, to hear from your own mouth.
Yeah. Aarti Industry was formed in 1984, but we started our chemical business since 1975. It was started with one small unit in Dombivli named Alchemy Laboratories, started by my elder brother Sri Chandrakant Gogri, who is also a chemical engineer from UDCT, and Mr. S.T. Shah, who came as a financial partner. Actually, Chandrakant Bhai graduated in 1969, and at that time, a lot of people were going to US engineer, but he was very clear that, we'll make stay here and build a business here and make US here. So that's why he didn't go to US at that time. And then I joined in 1983. Actually, I did my bachelor in 1981 and then did my master's in 83 and immediately came back. In 1984, this Aarti Industry was formed. As a journey, we divide our journey in a 3 phase. First is a pre-1991, that is a licensing regime in India. So that is 75 to 91, where we had a lot of small-scale units with various other partners or promoters, both technical as well as on financial part. Actually, very interesting in 84 also, because we didn't get the license at that time. So we had to form 2 different companies, Aarti Organic and Alchemy Organic, to split the reaction and separation. So that's how we managed that. And we got first license in 1989. But fortunately, the licensing as a concept went off in 1991 as a reform. So that was then the second phase started, 1991 to 2011. And delicensing, and then rupee custom duty started coming down. And entire buzzword moved from, import substitute to export and competitiveness. The now name of the game was, to be competitive, and competition was increasing every year. So that second phase, 91 to 2011, that is where, we build the scale and efficiency in our business. And we were very judicious in our product selection and chemistry, so that, we can build the scale. And also the 3 out of the 4 promoter directors of Aarti Industry were chemical engineer. Mr. Parimal Desai was the other one, other than Chandrakant Bhai, myself, were chemical engineer. So that technical background also helped. We had our own engineering unit, fabrication. So the equipment's costs also were lower, and we could do things much faster. So that was this journey where, we did very excellent in our variable cost as well as, our manufacturing overhead during that period. And then mid-90s, my niece and nephew, Rasesh Gogri and Hital Gogri, joined the company. Actually, both of them are also engineers. Our family is actually engineers. Myself, my elder brother, then his son and daughter, and my both sons. We are all family of engineers, and we have our son-in-laws are chartered accountant and daughter-in-law are doctors. So we say we create the wealth. Son-in-law to manage the wealth, and daughter-in-law has to manage our health.
Very well said.
The family structure has evolved. So they joined in mid-90s. The company. So that was a broader journey till 2011. That time, by that time, we, for most of our product, we are in like global top 3 to top 5. And very few companies from India, chemical companies, were exporting to China by that time. And at that time, our structure was very lean in the sense, overall, that 6 of us were there. And under them, maybe around 15, 20 people were the main key driving force for the company. So that gives a broader history till 2011. And post 2011 was when the entire transformation started. Yeah. Interesting.
As you mentioned, I'm glad that you explained the three phases of transformation. With 6 members of family who joined at various stages, how have the roles and responsibilities within the families evolved, and how well has it been accepted by each of them?
All right. Yeah. So, when I mentioned at that time, till 2011, we were about 6 people, 4 from Gogri family, and Mr. Parimal Desai and Mr. Pisha. So 6 of us, which we had a kind of a functional responsibilities. Chanakant Bhai and Parimal Bhai were in charge of operations and R&D and projects. Shanti Bhai was in charge of finance. I was in charge of commercial and business development. Rasesh was looking after entire purchase and our associate concerns, and part of pharma. We had a 2 business, chemical and pharma. And others were also looking after pharma and also entire logistics. So that's how, the roles were divided more on functionally with hierarchy kind of thing. And there was a lot of trust in ability and competence of each other. And that helped that a single person was not rotated on for everything. So we had a kind of a structure, basically.
My next question is to Renil, to continue with Rajendra by what you mentioned. Does family in the business have a impact on the growth of the organization, and does ownership bring in more passion to one's work? What is your experience, Renil, if you would like to take up this question?
Yeah, so I think the first question is family. It helps and it hinders. I think there are 2 sides of the coin, basically. So what we have been able to do is the same model which existed earlier. We were able to take forward when suppose I joined or Mirik joined, and we sort of divide the organization kind of functionally in terms of the family members. That kind of gives a lot of space for everyone to operate in, basically. Right. Then there is a lot of trust and the space available, because as more people, family members join, and if they are competent, they would require certain freedom and certain space to operate. Otherwise, it can get suffocating, which I have seen in some other family organization. It sort of kind of suffocates, and then there is family members are maybe not able to fully express themselves or their ideas that they feel like doing. So that, I think, kind of worked before, and that is what we have been able to sort of carry forward. As far as ownership is concerned, yeah, it is very natural for the promoter group or family members to have a sense of ownership. I think the real challenge is how that kind of percolates in the entire organization, which is something that always is the aim of any kind of transformation of all the employees, how we can take it there.
Yeah, just add this point. Basically, this promoter of family-driven organization, if there is a good coordination between them, it's a very, very big help to the organization. Like, functional excellence of each can be tapped up, to directly have relations with all the external stakeholders, whether customers, suppliers, bankers, and all, so that definitely, helped us in that sense in our entire journey of growth, that, promoter and family driven with individually very well defined role and a close coordination.
So one thing I have discovered is that how we are operating as is we have sort of have a lot of CXO level positions now filled up with very competent leaders, and the CEO role is sort of split between the family members basically.
Okay.
It's a very different model where suppose me, Mirik, Rashesh and RVG, for example, in the chemical segment, we sort of split it up and then we coordinate to give that direction to the organization. Where RVG is supposed still the CEO, but we play that role to support him.
Understand.
Otherwise, I would, if we sort of look at a professional CEO at this junction, I think he will go crazy with respect to the expectation and the transformation and everything that comes in. Here, I feel that kind of is very successful way of doing it. So we are also sort of like how sort of blue whales sort of operate in terms of everyone having some part of coordinating together. That is sort of a unique way in which sort of we are operating right now. In the future, it may change, but that is sort of, I feel, a very unique way to be basically. Yeah.
That throws up an important question as to how do you ensure there is close coordination amongst the family members, because as you in your own word described that the role of a CEO, it's not one leader, but there are multiple leaders who need to work in a close coordination, because if that coordination is missing, then there could lead to chaos in terms of communication downwards.
So for that, basically there are 2-3 things. One is you'll have a lot of MISs, so you get the information is available to everybody, what is happening. And second will be your informal talk, contact with each other. And third will be through certain formal meetings and formal structures. So we have all the 3 balances. We have regular some formal meetings where the founders plus maybe the executives can participate. And so this way, we are able to that everybody is aware of what is happening in the other field. Also, and then if there are any views or points to be added, can be, there are both formal and informal opportunity to, either understand more or give more idea to the other person.
And living in the same house helps. so and it for us, but for our spouses, it's a problem.
No, I can understand. Renil, I have gone through the same story because my father retired from L&T and I joined him as a fresh engineer. We are also engineers like you. And my learning started from day one. And he told me I leave for work at 8 a.m. If you're not ready by 8, you catch the bus and come. And I came 5 minutes late first time, and after that I was never late. But at the same time, I think we in hindsight, it was a good decision that we didn't bring work and talks back home. I think the moment we get into the car, we used to discuss about work. But once we are back home, I think it was a father and a son relationship. It's not easy, I can understand. But it evolves.
Yeah, just on this one thing is, we are right now, as is, we are highly functionally organized organization, basically. So what you mentioned about coordination between the different pillars, as we call them, manufacturing or expansion and all that, that is something that we have to solve for, basically. What a highly functional organization, like at the very top, is a very functional organization. The challenge is that the coordination or information flow between different pillars or different function is the challenge. What works is basically you have functional excellence. And that's how we have sort of organized, and that's a challenge that always needs to be looked at. Yeah.
I think why I made that mention is because we as consultants to many family-owned organizations have seen that professionals tend to be in a sense of confusion. They are reporting into multiple individuals. And when that happens and there are multiple sources of instructions coming in, that becomes very difficult for the professional manager to manage and perform and show results. Because as a professional manager, you want to be seen good, if I use the word, with every family member. And it is not easier. So have you experienced those kind of situations, and or that communication lines have been very clear that this is the protocol in the system?
I think so basically, what we have in a company, what we have tried to develop is that broader thing, first of all, why the company exists. So there has to be some broader clarity which helps the decision making. So what is the purpose, why we exist? Like that we have defined the right chemistry for brighter tomorrow. So we will go into the product which are, are going to be helpful. Maybe 30 years back, we had a proposal to go into alcohol business, portable alcohol. Then we decided we will not go. We don't want to encourage people to drink alcohol and make money out of it. So, so we have to have a certain purpose for the product what we make. And simultaneously the right chemistry to make the chemistry which is more environmentally sustainable and more safer. So certain things are broadly defined. The important thing, in last 40 years has been our values. Our values have remained same. Care, integrity, and excellence from the beginning. And that is one thing we should transcend from whatever may be the organization's, lifespan. Your strategy may change. Strategy will change based on the external factors, but the values is which continues, So I will always tell our executive, whenever in doubt about taking decisions, just see the values. Where does it pin? Integrity, care, excellence. So that if you have broader guidelines, that on what is the purpose and what is the value of the company, then what is the strategy. Now, what strategy we have defined is growth with sustainability for sustainable growth. So if you want a sustainable growth in a chemical line, the key is the sustainability. You have to have continuous focus on safety, health, environment, energy. So these broad things, gives a very good alignment in the organization, and that avoids the even at the top we are aligned at the family and director promoter level, and simultaneously the same is conveyed to the entire organization that this is how we want to run. So that kind of reduces the issues what you are trying to mention, that different family members, how do you deal? But basic broad structure and the philosophy of the company is very, very clear and very, very uniform in that sense.
Correct.
Yeah, please go ahead.
This will basically ensure a directional alignment towards the organization where it is going. So it's not that there is a sort of a pull towards two different areas between the family or in the organization. And then for operational decision making, there is clarity who takes what kind of decisions amongst the family members. So smaller decisions and all are sort of very clearly then divided who will take what. So that freedom comes. And critical strategic decisions are taken jointly, basically, like the investment decisions, big investments or big projects and all, which are really critical for the organization. Everyone puts their thought behind it, and then we let the things go forward. So that, I think, is like the three aspects. One is complete directional alignment. The second aspect, operational freedom for taking smaller decisions, or which even has to be delegated more with the entire professional for the professionals to take those decisions. And the third is basically critical decisions are taken together. I think that is what we have sort of stumbled upon as a successful way of making things work in the family.
If you look around the world, I think some of the largest and successful corporations are family owned even today. I think it's a very large majority. And if I were to look at the typical European family organizations, I think one has seen the model of where the family members are at the supervisory board level. They are not involved or do not have any executive responsibility. Maybe the entire generation never got into executive responsibility. Is it if we were to flip it with India, is it to do a cultural part, or do you see that also maybe going forward happening in India? I have not yet seen any successful cases of Indian families which have moved into a supervisory role at the board level in the true sense, without any operational responsibility or giving directions on a day-to-day basis. Any thoughts? Is there any companies that you have tried to benchmark yourself, or just to get your thoughts, both of you?
Basically, we have been always an evolving organization. For even well, I was mentioning about 15-20 people till around 2011 who were reporting to us. For most of them, it was a first-time job. So it has been very evolving organization based on the needs. So if we look back at that time, we are very, very hands-on, with all the external stakeholders, all the promoters were indirectly touch with. For our size of the company, by the time in 2011, our sales was about 1600 crore rupees, and profit was about 100 crores. So at that size of company, very few companies will have that much, at the top level director connect with various stakeholders. So that's, we were always considered very hands-on. A lot of our colleague in the industry, how do you manage all that? It's possible because of this functional responsibility. From that hands-on to now we have moved is toward the CXO level. So now basically our direct involvement in day-to-day running becomes less and less.
Understood.
And then it becomes more of a direction what we have to provide, and more on finance and strategy, where the trends are and what kind of business opportunity. That is where our major focus becomes. And also key customer relations, that will definitely like to keep, in the sense that that customer relations are also very critical. We are kind of a B2B business, and we have a lot of big customers.
The subject of today being leading transformation in family businesses, and these are all small parts of it. At what stage did you realize that we need to have a formal approach towards transformation? Why the transformation? How the transformation you went about? And a little more on the process, because I think that is where I think a lot of our participants today are interested, and they get affected in their own working lives. I would allow either of you or both of you to kind of articulate this question.
Yeah, I will take up first. Why the need of transformation arise? In 2011, Chandrakant Bhai was 65, and Narayan Murthy was his idol, and so he said he also wanted to retire at the age of 66. Wanted to retire in 2012, and by the time Santi Bhai was also almost 70 plus. Parimal Bhai was also in mid 60s. So out of 6, 3 people were on that level. So, and the organization was continuously growing. So that's where it needed, out of 6, if 3 people are going to retire, then we have to see that how we grow this entire organization further. I still recollect Mr. Chandran of BSF India chairman. At that time he had visited a lot of chemical companies, who he thought potential to grow, and he mentioned one very good thing, what brought you here will not take you there.
Right.
So we had to move from this very hands-on approach to the things to one more professionals. Now, when Chandrakant Bhai decided to retire, that because he was entire operations were under him. So when I took over, first thing when I told the operation guys that even the buck stops at me, but now you will be answerable for all the decisions. In that sense, you'll have to have a backup logic of how the things are going to decide. So that is the need of transformation started from there itself. That now we have less people from the promoter side, and organization is growing. So we'll have to build a much system. Originally, it was more of our factories were managed like a small scale units. We had about 9, 10 small scale industries. So in small scale industry, you have one manager who handles all the functions. It was not a functional organization. So that that has to change. And luckily, simultaneously, Renil joined in. He joined the company in 2009, and his flair was also more on the operations and systems. Right. Ultimately, the family member the area he chooses, he should enjoy and he should have excellence. Yes. Both things. So luckily he liked that idea rather than to be in commercial or finance. So that is I think which he liked it. And when Chandrakant Bhai retired in 2012, Renil then he joined on the board as 2012, and that is where the entire transformation was needed. That to take the company to the next level, we needed professionalization, and not only both at operation also, in the business side also. So business side also we made few changes. In overall, Rasesh, which was originally looking more on pharma and entire purchase, came into chemical commercial also. I reduced my commercial load and went focused more on business development and transformation. Ethel took over all pharmaceutical entire business. So that's how we reallocated the roles at the promoter level also, and started embarking on this transformation journey. Now Renil can brief further on that.
Yeah. So I think transformational journey, what I have discovered now is that there are phases to it. So if I look back, when I joined in 2009 to 2012 was more of a learning phase for me. It was sort of just to understand. One realization that I had was, and then we discussed with RVG also, is that the way we are operating we cannot grow like this. Basically, there needs to be a sustained change in the way we operate. Basically, because what got us here was entrepreneurial brilliance.
Right.
With the founders, really being very agile, taking sort of risks and being the entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
Whereas what will get to take us ahead will require us to transform some of it. Like fundamentals of agility has to come down. There has to be a structured approach. There has to be professionalization, proper decision making. A lot of focus on safety and sustainability and systems and processes, which as an organization was something which was a miss at that point of time, because the focus was completely like all units have independent autonomy, basically. So standardization, systems, processes was something which was not there. So we had say excellence as far as our costs are concerned, as far as our productivity is concerned, but we had to bring the same kind of excellence in say safety, people, processes, etc. So if I look back now, I didn't realize it back then, but if I look back now, we have had two sort of transformation cycles. The first one was from 2013 to 2017, and the second one is basically 2018 to 2021. The second one is very well designed, very well sort of imagined, the second one, but the first one was just like we have to change.
Right.
So in that phase, first phase was basically to sort of really look at safety as a pillar of transformation, look at getting good young talent on board. So we were able to sort of through personal connects get very strong IITians, 2 years junior to me, 5, 6 of them who have now become pillars of a future RT to sort of join us. We recruited our leadership team, not senior leaders, not executive leaders, and all, just some of the leadership team we kind of recruited at that point of time. And we focused a lot on safety and creating the culture that we want to be very, very, very good in safety. Basically, that was that phase of 2013 to 2017. And we started to think of building our own systems, basically. So for me personally, it was like to see the world, what the organizations outside are doing, what the world is doing, and then what we need to do, experiment with it. Some things would succeed, some things would fail, and then be like have perseverance and then move ahead as such. So that first phase, so in the first phase, if you look at the highlights from 2013 to 2017, we sort of defined our purpose, our values. We got very good young guys on board. We put a lot of focus on systems to build the system, preliminary basic systems like management of change, startup PSSR, build safety studies, focus on maintenance. So our leadership team, if you look at our current leadership team, currently if we look at leaders plus senior leaders, executive leaders, we may have around close to 90, 100, a team of that many right now. So at that point of time, we had around 6, 7, basically. So you can imagine, like from that point, we were sort of trying to build the entire organization. We never knew we'll reach here, but we are like trying to sort of really understand what we need to do, take one step at a time, and then sort of move ahead, experiment. I also imagine in 2014, just one anecdote, we were very excited to get 7 process engineers, basically, as GETs. And right now we are recruiting 200. So that's kind of where we were back then as an organization. The good part was financially we were doing well and the business opportunity did exist. Otherwise, all this is not possible. So that the first phase and the culmination of that phase in 2017 was us getting 2 big contracts. Basically, that was a result of our focus of 4 years on focusing on systems, focusing on culture, focusing on people to start to focus right now. If I look back, I think we were pretty nascent back then, but at that point of time, we were like, okay, we have moved a lot. So 2017, we got the 2 big contracts. We got, and we also recruited senior people in operations. So one point was one of my coaches sort of asked me, Renil, what is your biggest problem? So I said, we need to have good operation guys. So like, why don't you headhunt them? So that was basically, I think, the first time we had an interaction with you. And that's where we sort of said that, yeah, this is the way to go. I think we have come a huge way from those phases. If I look back 2017. So that was the first phase of transformation. The second phase was very structured. Then we clearly in 2018 defined where we want to be in 2021, what are the indicators, what we want to change, what the organization would be, where we want to grow, how much we want to grow, etc. And we have been then recruiting a lot of senior leaders in this phase, executive leaders. Our systems have really matured over time, and the people partner. So that we can talk about that in detail, but yeah. So that's basically the 2 phases of transformation, how I see it. And going forward, I sort of, if you just have to outlay, I can sort of visualize another 2 phases going forward from 22 to 26 and then 26 to 2030, basically. And then we sort of have that movement take place. So like, yeah.
So just to add few things on this, externally things were changing for chemical industry. Chemical industry easternization happened only in India and China. It never happened to Malaysia, Thailand and all. And then once the things started moving out of China, there is no Vietnam, no Bangladesh. So because India and China only had that ecosystem, a small and medium and large. So India and China. So post 2010-12, that demand from India started increasing overall. So that was the reason also we got these 2 big contracts. One contract for 10 years with 4,000 crore supplies. The second one was 20 years, which is really unheard of kind period. The total supply of 10,000 crores. So that was showing that there is a huge appetite for chemical industry and chemical manufacturing globally from India. And that time we realized that if you want to really capitalize on this appetite, we have built a foundation of a very, very strong customer base across the board. Like who is who in world for, are our customers. If you take Bayer, BASF, Dow, DuPont, Celanese, Solvay, virtually all the big chemical majors are our customers. So then we had to build, our organization so that, to get the money was easy. I could get few hundred crores from the banks or from the stock market. It is the organization who should be able to see this growth into reality. And that's where, post 2017, this entire, and our people who started with us in the early part, they were also on the retiring part, the first employees who were with us from the beginning. So we had to build this lateral recruitment at a senior level and make a scalable, organization structure. So that's where, that need arose, which we could see in 2017, and then 17 to 20 has been, that journey. And the CXO level happened in 2020. That's why I think now we have matured as an organization structure.
Any kind of a change and transformation can be a painful exercise, frustrating exercise, and from a human quotient, it could be a very emotional thing also. People who already been in the system working for many years, suddenly you believe that the roles will change, responsibilities change, people coming from outside. Did you experience any turmoil, any moments of anxiety as promoters? Would you like to share any such anecdote, and how did you address that?
Yeah, we are very right, and especially when there is a structure change. When there is a people change, there is not much because the role remains same. Here we are changing the structure. Till 2012, we said very lean. So manufacturing was all like a small scale industries. There was no function. So a lot of functional were formed in manufacturing. And so there were new people coming in, then the older people who were there, the entire new structure was formed. So it was a journey at that time, getting more senior people also to work with the older people. So that was also had to be explained to them that this is how we want a independent, functional, specialized. And office also earlier we are only a marketing team. Now we started having a separate supply team, a separate business team. So like they were also not used to this. Suddenly there are business guys who are managing certain way. So business and marketing people also have to coordinate and deliver. So when you change this kind of a structure and add new people, there is no job worry because the people were needed. But question is, how do you coordinate and all that? So that couple of years, a lot of synthesizing the various teams that that both everybody is going to actually help each other perform better. So that I think that is the challenge we faced in early part.
In this journey, did you also lose some talent, some people that you would have otherwise not wanted to lose, but it was inevitable?
So we had a we looked at the leadership level. So we had a very thin team, basically. Some of them sort of retired, and the idea was at any phase in the last 8-9 years, the entire transformation journey was sort of co-created. It was never top-down enforced, basically. The main way to make it successful is that you need to discuss it, create it, and align together as the entire team of what is needed for the organization. Basically. So without that, there will be turmoil. So one of our very big strengths in the organization currently is the culture that we have been able to develop, basically, and we have focused a lot on it over the last 3-4 years to really understand what is the culture in the organization, focusing on leadership development, coaching for all of us, and then creating a space where all the journey that we want to take ahead is not a top-driven kind of enforced, a target-driven organization, but rather a co-created space where everyone feels a part of the journey. So just an example, in 2018, we created Aarti 1821, which is basically where we want to be in 21, as how Aarti will look like in 21. And that entire document was created with 6 days of effort by 50 people and subsequent alignment with another 200 people. So 250 people spent entire time sort of trying to co-create what Aarti would look like in 3 years' time and gave their kind of word to taking it forward. So the ownership part that I think we spoke about at the start, the ownership for me, it is very natural to have ownership. The game basically is that how can that ownership be for everyone who is sort of working, and that will define the success, in my opinion, of the organization as such. So in earlier Aarti, that ownership came naturally because the promoters were in direct contact with the teams. Organization has become quite big. That is not possible. But how we sort of create that ownership feeling amongst the teams and the employees is the big challenge. And I think we have been able to really sort of do pretty well in that. So we can create. So the entire phase is that we are continuously growing and expanding. And at the same time, our teams also, we need to get the teams on board. So there will be a chaos there. There is a chaos of expansion. There is also a chaos that we need to put systems in place. So there are so many different things sort of happening in the organization, and family members retiring. So there are 3, 4, 5 things happening at the same time. So that is where co-creation and alignment, I think, is something that it has really helped us sort of manage this entire transformation and move forward, where as an organization we have been able to really, in my opinion, take those steps.
Very interesting. Renil, you touched upon saying that there could be, going forward, 2 possible another phases. Would you like to just touch base what could be those phases?
So how I see it is, the first phase was like extreme basic hygiene, 2013 to 2017. Now 2018 to 2021, we can say we are pretty good. We are, say in India, if we benchmark companies and our peers, our systems are probably one of the best. Our talent is mostly, in my opinion, the best talent that we have got very, very strong teams. And culturally, we are pretty good. But we are not world class, basically. So how I see it is in 22 to 26, the aspiration is to be world class. That is basically the transformation that we are looking at, where we can say that we are up to world class levels. And 26 to 2030 is something that I see is that we have to be beyond world class, especially in some of these specific areas like safety or environment or culture as such is concerned. So I look at it sort of very functionally, and how I see the organization is that we cannot leave any one specific area behind. So we have to focus on all aspects: safety, environment, operations, maintenance, then in R&D, technology, projects, people, corporate affairs, social responsibility, business, finance, social, like legal, business development systems. And every area needs to really sort of transform and step up. So we need talent there, we need systems there, we need coordination, alignment, and all of that. So we are at a phase where, how I see it, another year to finish this transformation which we started in 2018, then towards world class, and then beyond world class. That is a possibility. That is how I imagine the organization. At the same time, we will be investing, continuously investing in our growth. So that basically will realize 3 to 4 times in terms of growth, or that is possible, basically. So company would grow if you look at 2030, and those 2 transformation cycles can happen. That's the imagination.
Very ambitious goals. Now, talking about being world class, I think talking and making it happen, I think I can understand there is a lot of perspiration will get involved.
Yeah.
And many of the people, do they understand what is world class? And how, because if you have not seen the so-called world class, how are you able to imbibe or educate? Is there a kind of a cultural journey, transformation journey also, which is happening while you speak?
Yes. So that is sort of really happening. So one is the competence of the team itself, basically. So our senior team and all, and many of them have come from very good organizations. So they bring a lot of Indian industry knowledge in our organization.
Right.
From our peer companies. So now we exactly know what is happening in our peer companies in terms of their processes, their systems, what they are doing, what they are good at. And that is something which we can sort of learn from and replicate here. World class will be also now to not look at just India, will be to look at the world and benchmark. So that journey we'll have to as an organization open our eyes to what are the gaps. Where sort of, for example, digital or IoT, where are companies in that specific area and how we can reach there, or as far as safety is concerned. So we know, for example, DuPont is probably a gold standard as far as safety is concerned. Now we need to really ask what they are doing, what is the culture there, what we are missing, and then we have 3-4 years to build that, basically. And then we have the foundations to do that. The point is we have to aim for the moon. We cannot sort of just say that no chalta hai and all. That will be a sort of, then we'll start going down. So we have, and that's possible.
Yeah, important thing I would like to highlight is that I like the Peter Drucker statement, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Right.
So, there are a lot of opportunity and we have our strategy in place and money is there, and ultimately it becomes a culture. So a lot of efforts, in this transformation has been put on, building a culture, especially when we are now getting senior people from so many different companies. Some of them have come from multinational, some of them with Indian majors and all that. So we have to have our own unique Aarti culture, and so we have invested a lot to build that culture. Also, that certain things are very critical. That people work on alignment; they don't stick to their own views. Once they put the views on the table, then they are all discussed. And important thing is, you speak powerfully and listen powerfully in that sense. So actually, I feel that everybody says we have to be learning organization, right? But I think the learning organization is not sufficient. You have to be listening organization. Everybody will go and learn everything, but nobody is going to ready to listen what these guys have learned. then you'll have individual people gaining knowledge, but the organization not going to. So I always tell our team that as a company, we have to be listening organization. People should be able to say good or bad, whatever it is. And the more you have discussions, open discussion where people can put their views, their question, then only whatever is Samudra Manthan, after that, whatever will come out will be the best. So that culture of openness and alignment and listening, because in the matter, you are allowed to be, even point out the mistakes or something which you find not good enough in other area. You are, open to tell to them that then other person can explain to you, why your assessment is not correct. So that culture is very important. If you want to really, be a world class, that culture of openness, and that is where we have really invested a lot in that, building that culture.
So one difference here is that, see, a traditional organization is like a control and command structure. We have a very strong corporate structure, and that works. And that works. There is no sort of issue with that. Basically, it has been successful. How we see it is that doesn't focus on really empowering the employees, basically, and creating that ownership culture. So what our idea is that we drop the concept of hierarchy. So I'll elaborate on that. So we like the concept of, say, top management, that there is a top management in the organization and there are employees. That is a traditional paradigm with which organization kind of work and operate. The idea is to drop that. So me or RVG or Mirik or any one of us has roles in the organization, or our CXOs or all, they are basically having roles in the organization. But the idea to create the future of the organization is a collective idea where we want to be, and that needs to be such that our CXOs can hold us accountable for what our promises are, or our team can hold us accountable across. So there is accountability possible across both in the whom you report to or who report to you, basically. So the idea is the reporting structure and pattern still exist, but instead of a hierarchical organization, we have a hierarchy-free organization where people are not operating from that context ki bhai, we cannot tell something to our bosses as such. So that with our senior leadership and the idea is, can we percolate it across the organization, this concept, and can we live that? Because then imagine that then the employees in the organization, they naturally feel part of the future. They just don't consider themselves that they are working as say a 9 to 6 kind of a job. The idea is that can everyone create something special, basically, and in their own areas. So where we bring the values of care, integrity, excellence. A field operator who is operating the plant is also looking at being world class in terms of how his plant would be. And all the employees together are doing that. So that's sort of an aspirational concept. You can say a utopian concept, but we are sort of very invested in that idea in terms of co-creation and alignment being cause in the matter as a way of life. So we have in fact created our own sort of leadership code on that called RT Engaging Leader, where we sort of talk about this all the time and sort of always look at where we are missing. So there's the natural tendency for me also would be that you just give a directive and an order, basically. But that is completely, we want to completely cut that out. Everything works in alignment, basically. So even if I am making a proposal, I make a proposal, not give a directive. If I have to give a directive that is aligned in this area, for example, in an emergency, we are not waiting for alignment, we are waiting for directions. It has to work like that. But that is aligned. So
I would Renil, agree with you fully. I think as a service provider and partner to RT, we ourselves have observed that. It is good to say, but to put in practice, I have seen the level of passion amongst your team. Again, I'm not saying to please you, and the level of ownership and empowerment they have. In our business, I have dealt with a generation, then professional managers come in, but still the promoters tend to call the shots. But I have seen that not happening, and I think it's commendable for within the family to bring about self-transformation and make people feel, I think, they empower. I think that's one. You talked about this world class again. RT today, while you are a global supplier, a B2B, but primarily a company with a firm footing manufacturing presence in India. Do you see that changing where Aarti is having international operations in terms of manufacturing going forward? Does that also is a part of the journey to make it world class? I don't know. World class, I mean, you're talking from quality and processes, but do you think, working internationally? Yeah.
Nirmit, that Arvind will answer, but the point is that comes up. Are you focusing on mergers and acquisition and so on? So we are sort of open to it, but the question is why? So I think Arvind.
Yeah, so basically, chemical industry currently India is the best place to cost.
Of course.
Capital cost in India is about 50% of cost in West for project also. Forget about the human resource cost. That is obviously cheaper. So for any chemical manufacturing, India is the cheapest destination. So but we can look at acquisition of a smaller companies, maybe in US and Europe, which can give you a technology or the market access. But ultimately, that should be then leveraged and increase the manufacturing here. So we don't see any manufacturing to be done outside India much. But the processes and the systems and that we want to be on a world-class level.
We talked a lot, Renil, about safety and environment. Is it from a compliance standpoint, or is it more to do with that's the way to do business? Because a lot of promoters look upon safety as a cost, not as an investment. How would you comment? Or is it to do with your customers being overseas and their expectation to be a very, very highly, I would say, safety-oriented company? Would you like to just share some thoughts on it?
One point I will just, and I was went to the factory after a year because of this lockdown and all, and meetings a lot of people first time. So one person who has joined from the other company, and he was just commenting that one good part in Aarti is that there is no safety budget of safety. Then I explained to him that there cannot be budget of safety. Safety, whatever is required for process safety and operational safety. If you are not able to compete by investing in appropriate safety measures, then better not make that product. It is not the reverse that I've got only this much safety budget. So either your technology is off or your competitors are doing unsafely. So one of the two things, but the safety as a concept cannot have budget. Safety is whatever you require for process safety and the operation. There are two components, process safety and operational safety, whatever is required. So chemicals, we say, we are in the business of safety and we also make chemicals. Yes. So that is what it is, That is a very unique thing about chemical is the safety and research and development. Each and every chemical also process has to be developed. These two things, which set apart chemical industry compared to all other industry is this research and development and the manufacturing, safety and manufacturing processes.
Yeah. So I think, Arvind took the words out of my mouth. Safety, we are in the business of safety, we also make chemicals. The fundamental question is safety, as for me personally, has been sort of the source of transformation from 2012 days, basically. So safety is an enormous field. It is extremely difficult to crack. It has so many aspects: behavioral, technical, process safety, electrical safety, fire, so many business processes that have to be set right, so much people orientation, so much technical understanding. It's just a huge subject. And if you're crazily passionate, at least I am, still it requires so many years of perseverance to actually reach that level that is required. See, what is the cost of one life? You cannot put a number to that, right? So that is a very simple thing, that if we are earning, all of us are earning from running this organization. It is our extreme, like we don't want to make sure that we don't lose anyone or no injury takes place, basically. So, and especially if you're growing like we are growing, doubling every 4 or 5 years, your risks are doubling, everything gets doubled. So focus on safety is the most important. And I think it requires so much. It requires, as I explained, it is a huge subject on it, and we are still continuously learning and evolving. And it is not that you want it, your commitment to it will be required for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, where we can say that now it is completely in control as such. So because
I agree.
that safety from commitment, it needs to translate into your team's commitment. From the team's commitment, it needs to translate into functional knowledge. From that, it needs to translate into actual implementation of the shop floor, both infrastructural and trainings. And then the entire cycle will kind of continue, because you will learn more, you'll have to transform more. So one thing we do is, like in safety we have started, is in Aarti is very unique concept of a huddle, where around 500 people every day we meet from 5 o'clock to 5:30 discuss on safety. We have had around 500 different huddles where we discussed an incident or discuss some learnings across the organization, basically. So
as they say, safety should be a walk of your life. Unfortunately, I think probably safety as important safety is not taught to us from school. I think if it becomes part of our curriculum, I think it's just attitude, I would say.
Yeah. So it is a cultural aspect, but it is a very technical aspect as well in chemical.
Of course.
So it is a huge field, and you really need to invest a lot. We have, I think, invested I don't know how many hundreds of crores on safety, and you also need to put time, energy, and also it's a massive subject and extremely important. And the more you
While I have many questions, I'm conscious of the time that we have another 15 minutes, and I'll pick up a few questions which have come from our participants. One question has come from Mr. Satish Kulkarni, whom you might know. Satish Kulkarni spent many years with BASF, and last he was CEO of Aquafarm, and prior to that CEO of Owens Corning. Satish's question is, can you describe your biggest challenge in working with professionals who come to join you from multinational or large Indian corporations?
So basically, it's to get into the culture of the organization. I think but we have a continuous process to assimilate, and also very open. So we are open to their ideas, and we expect that they should be open to the others' ideas. Basically, there's a team, and we have a senior leadership group, so that alignment and unification of culture we have visualized.
So in that, I think Manoj, our CHRO, had a wonderful thing he did. He was speaking to the team who had joined recently, and he told them, for 6 months you just observe, don't get into performance mode, which was, I think, a little unique, because otherwise everyone's ambition is that when you join the organization is to show your performance.
Right.
So one thing is that, see, if we are in an infinite game, so there is a concept, I think, which Simon Sinek has created, a finite game and infinite game. And if we are at an infinite game, it is important to completely assimilate in the organization and then sort of work. So we have some very strong leadership development sessions with our coaches, which our team, once they join, go through to sort of really understand and assimilate in the organization. How we see it is that there is a culture that we are trying to co-create. So what you are bringing from other organization, which is good, we would like to have it. And at the same time, whatever is working here, you also be part of it. So I think that has really kind of helped, and I'm actually very at ease. Both of us are, because of the senior team that we have had, and a lot of thanks to you guys also in a part of that. So yeah.
Thank you. The question from Mr. Ananta Padmanabhan saying, I am curious on the subject of empowerment. How does it work at the family member level and at the level of executives in terms of empowerment? And how are mistakes handled? Professionals make mistakes, family members make mistakes. How are those looked upon? So would you like to elaborate on that, please?
So we are, as an organization, have always been very tolerant in that sense. And I think that's, if that was a historical thing. So, I mean, mistakes would be sort of made. So empowerment perspective, how I look at it, my role is to make as less decisions as possible. That is my role. I don't want to get into decision making. And that's what even I tell, other family members also, that our success is that if we can delegate the decision making to the teams, that means our teams are now developed to do that. So the idea is to naturally empower. My role should not be to take any decisions. My KPI is to take as less decisions as possible. that is sort of one of the answers to it, and that will result in sort of delegating of it. Mistakes will be made any which ways. There is no issue of that. Collective decision making and alignment process would generally tend to reduce decision making. This thing. So the critical decisions which are sort of most impactful should be looked at by multiple people at different angles and then aligned upon. So collective wisdom, I think, is much more important than individual this thing. Then you can reduce the mistakes.
Yeah, I'll just add on to this. When you are a promoter of family culture in an organization, generally you tend to be tolerant historically, because then you are together. Nobody is going to move out. So if there are some mistakes, then you will discuss and learn out of it. That becomes a broad culture. Otherwise, you cannot run partnerships. Right. So ours is not only purely a family. We have got so many partners. The RT industry, actually, our family is more involved. We have some other group companies, listed companies. Our family involvement is less, and there are other partners. So inherently, we have that structure. So you have to learn. You have to be positive. Learn from the mistakes. But important thing, if our professional, critical thing is value system. If anybody is failing in the value, like integrity and care, then that is not tolerated. So companies' values, when anybody is making decisions, certain these are the North Star. So if people make decisions which are against the North Star, that is not tolerated. Other than that, it is more of an assessment mistake.
Understand.
But that anybody can do. We will also do. Anybody will do.
There are two interesting questions. One comes from Meeta Dixit, and I presume it's a lady, and she says, with different age groups of family members with varied ambitions, how do you align your vision and goals? And as you mentioned, Rajendra, to me the other day, that you are 2.5 generations.
Yeah, we are very lucky. My elder brother Chandrakanth is 14 years elder than me. Rasesh, my nephew, is 14 years younger, and Rasesh and Renil is about 13 years. So we are running a half generation gap. So that kind of makes things easier, because the transition, like I will not know about the IT and all that, which Rasesh was knowing much more when Renil came. So it become easier for Renil for certain system which I will not be able to grasp in that sense. But ultimately unifying factor will always be the purpose, why you do, your values and system, this strategy. Those alignment becomes critical. That you have to be aligned on the broader principle why you are running the business and what is the strategy. So that has been I think the key part. I think.
What about ambitions? Because people come with different levels of ambitions.
Yeah, so that is when then the function should match with the ambition and excellence. Like Mirik came, my younger son. He is also an IT engineer. He graduated in 2013, and 3 years he did a lot of innovation and innovative products. And his mindset is on that side, on research and innovation. So he came and he picked up the area of R&D and all. So if the functions are taken up based on the individual liking and excellence, and then people can excel in that, and that their individual ambitions move on that direction. And then as a company, we have to run on the basic certain framework and guidelines.
So one of the things would always be at a personal ambition, I think, can be a problem. How I see it philosophically is that we are extremely lucky to be in the state we are in. Basically, it's a privileged situation, and we are sort of custodians or trustees of the organization. So the entire organization is how you look at the whole thing, that the entire organization must move forward, and your personal happiness will be taken care of if that sort of happens. So then we are sort of aligned in that way, basically.
Just a further question to this is asked by Mr. Suhas. So in family managed businesses, what would you suggest? Should the family member work outside the business for a few years before joining? What has been your experience in your family? Have most of them joined immediately after college, or they've had a chance to work outside, and have you seen any difference? Yeah.
So I had a work experience of 5 months in Deutsche Bank after college. Just for the sake of it, I sort of did that, and then I took some time off, and then I joined Aarti. Most of the others I joined very quickly. So one thing is that we never pursued MBA because I think our MBA got done with RVG's under RVG's leadership itself. We
Practical,
learned
yes.
everything that you can sort of learn, so never felt the need for that.
Hmm.
So it's, I don't know.
Yeah, in our case, basically everybody has joined directly.
Or maybe
Nobody has
short stint.
very, very short. I think Rasai Setal, Mirik, nobody worked.
Himshesh was there for
some time. So
Very good. I will take two more questions. This is from Mr. Govind Khetan, and he says, what has been your biggest learnings in the last decade? And what do you think you have done differently then?
biggest
I think the last 12 months also has been a lot of learning for all of us.
Yeah. One thing, we have to be, that industry is evolving and, we have to also evolve ourselves, That I always say that chemical industry is the best industry. It has got triple growth drivers. It is the import substitution, domestic growth as well as export. So main thing is how do we, capitalize on that, and be part of the nation building. And but as it is difficult to put this demand opportunity into practice. So developing R&D, culture, systems, and all has been the main thing which is happening in the last 10 years.
Very good. So the last 5-7 minutes, I want to ask some personal questions, and I know there are a lot of many members of the Aarti family also present today, and I don't know. I'm sure I might ask this question on their behalf. So one is, Rajendra bhai, what are your own hobbies and passion beyond work? You seem to have worked all your life until now, but I'm sure there are some passions which probably none of us are aware about.
Yeah, no, basically travel has been a big passion. Travel almost 70 years across the continent, and snorkeling, swimming, and some of the sports, skiing. Also, we went in Gulmarg.
Very good.
Those kind of sports, reading books, movies, all those kind of hobbies.
So in your travel log, which are the next places that you would want to visit, which is still eluding you?
Yeah, we finished the Antarctica 2 years back. I think next
Very
maybe
good.
Arctic. And actually the Kenya is still pending for me. So these two things I think is something next few years. And we are also good, like watching sports. We have attended so many World Cup soccer. In Korea and in South Africa, Brazil and Russia, 4 World Cups.
So Rajendra bhai, tell us an incident about when Renil was a child going to school. Some incident that would be interesting for all of us to know. Maybe he did some truant at school. He did something which is you still as a family discuss and joke, or something that you like to share with us.
I remember Renil and Mirik, they used to play cricket in the house, and suddenly one day the showcase glass was broken. And I came. And my first thing, it took so long that I realized that this was supposed to be broken. So we have been very positive. In the sense the thing happened and you go and looking forward. That is something which children play in the house and all. At that time, you don't realize that you don't play cricket, when you have a glass showcases and all. Something like that.
Very good. Renil, would you like to add on to what Arvi just mentioned? Anything that you recollect that you'd like to share with all of us?
No, I think this, so I think in general it was like this thing. So we were never put in that kind of stress in terms of doing all that. So we were actually not very mischievous also. So me and Mirik used to have a lot of fights.
Good, very good. No, I think it's been a great pleasure talking, having this free-flowing conversation with both of you. This is a subject which one could talk for a few more hours. I wish both of you and the larger family and the Aarti team a lot of success in coming years in the transformation journey that which we have embarked. And I would like to thank on behalf of the 3P team for your valuable time on a Friday evening. Before I close formally, I would request all participants today, and I must mention that never ever in the last 12 months, in the 6 webinars we have done, we have had such high number of participants. When we started off, we were 505, and I still see 275 participants while we speak. So I think it talks about two things. One is the topic, and more importantly, I think both of you and two generations in the business and the passion with which you spoke. So thank you so very much, both of you. Stay safe and looking forward to remaining in touch.
Yeah, just one closing
Please.
from my side. When Renil mentioned stress, one thing we like to highlight, our mission is a delighted stakeholder. It's not shareholders. It's a delighted stakeholder. So we have to delight all the stakeholder, which is shareholder, employees, customer, everything. So one thing which I would never like, we would never like that our employees are under stress. They should enjoy the working. And one thing is that we at the top, our job is to provide the atmosphere so that they can work up to their potential individually, and collectively they should exceed their potential. That is our main role now.
Of course. I think work should be fun, and I think that's what brings about more commitment and fun in life.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so very much, both of you. Wishing you, both of you, and all the participants a very happy and a safe Holi. Stay safe, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.